Okay, welcome and testing. Let's make sure we have sound. Welcome to everyone here. All right, welcome in. So happy Thursday. Today is August 22nd, 2024, and we're going to be doing something a little different for you. Yes, we will. So welcome to everyone in the chat. I apologize for not greeting you each personally. We'll do that after. We have a lot to cover. I want to dive right on in. So thank you all for being here. If you're in the lurker crew, please join the chat. It's homely in the chat. It's fun, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to come. I think you're going to be a little upset tonight. If you're not already, with all that's gone on with this case. Tonight in particular, we're going to be taking a very close look at the first 2 years. This will be a little something different in our weird series. We won't be looking at my community post. We'll be getting to that next time. We're going to be looking at the work of Skip Jansen. That's right. He is taking a close look at a bunch of developments in the first 2 years of this case, and sort of climaxing up to the change of direction press conference in 2019. So we're going to be taking a look at those first 2 years and a bunch of things. We're going to be starting off with some of Skip's thoughts, and then getting into mine, and hopefully by the end of this, you guys will have a lot more questions, and maybe a little more clarity on some of the actual events that have transpired, especially in the first 2 years. And so with that being said, please hit the like as you come on in, and please enjoy yourselves in the chat. Please don't fight. Okay, let's have a nice time. We'll be focusing, as you see here, this actually comes into play. Okay, this actually does come into play. This is a very important part of this case, which is twofold. It's this collection of individuals here you see listed, and also some of the individuals who are not on this list, but perhaps should be. That's really the crux of the matter, okay? We have many individuals on this list, as you can see. And we also have many individuals who are not on this list, but who probably should be, and probably initially were. And that's a point of concern, and should be a point of concern for everyone, okay? So that's the deal. Now, before we get into some of the slides we're going to look at, I decided I should allow Skip to speak for himself, so to speak, and we'll be doing that by way of me reading some of this. So the following is sort of an introduction to the slideshow from Mr. Skip Jansen, and we'll read through some of this so that you understand what we're getting to. And for those on the replay and those who need to, you'll be able to back it up and listen to this again to understand the context that we are establishing here. So the following summary takes a look at the investigation by law enforcement in the murders of Libby German and Abby Williams. The complete timeline of events begins on the day the girls were found, allegedly February 14th, 2017, and concludes with the release of the probable cause affidavit and the arrest of Richard Allen dated October 27, 2022. But the primary focus of this summation targets the date of February 14, 2017 on to April 22nd, 2019, with a particular emphasis on the February to April 2019 timeframe. April 22nd, 2019 marked the most significant event, aside from the arrest of Richard Allen, in this investigation's history, and I'm sure many of you will know that. The April 22nd, 2019 press conference was a very dramatic event. There was a lot of pomp and circumstance, a lot of theatrics involved, and a lot of confusion. And before I go any further, these are my own words, by the way. I've stopped reading. I will continue momentarily and let you know when I do so. I'd like to interject that the most odd thing in the world that people have accepted as normal at this point in time is the introduction of what we are calling the Young Bridge Guy sketch. Okay, a sketch that was rated 10 out of 10 by one of the witnesses, and we'll be getting into that later this evening, for accuracy. Okay, now I'd just like to also interject the following, that if you would take a photograph of Richard Allen and look at it next to this Young Bridge Guy sketch, could you honestly say that this is a 10 out of 10 resemblance, Mr. Richard Allen, to this Young Bridge Guy sketch? Okay, I highly doubt it. I've seen some individuals who I would rate a 9 out of 10 in comparison to that Young Bridge Guy sketch, but certainly Richard Allen is not, in my opinion. And but this sort of a distraction that I'm getting into, I'm sorry, but what I really mean to say is that the unconventional and unheard of major change in the sketch from what we initially referred to as the Old Bridge Guy sketch to this Young Bridge Guy sketch. And involved in that is a lot of concern. Remember that there was a press release or a bulletin by the Indiana State Police in 2019 seeking to clarify the confusion based upon this dramatic change of sketch. And what that was a series of bullet points that alleged that the old guy sketch and the young guy sketch were not the same individual, were actually two different individuals. Okay, that's an important point to keep in mind. And also that the old guy sketch, the person represented there, was no longer a person of interest. Okay. As an aside, I'd also like to mention that there's good reason to believe that Daniel Pearson was possibly the originator of that old guy sketch and was very unhappy with the outcome of that old guy sketch appearing the way that it did. Later, sort of agreeing more in the realm of Dan McCain, possibly. Okay. Another side note. Okay. But you will also recall that aside from the ISP very clearly delineating the fact that these were two separate individuals and that the old guy represented in the old guy sketch was no longer a person of interest. Okay, not only that, you'll remember that Doug Carter went on for years to say that if you took the two sketches and put them together, that the person behind it would be the person responsible for the deaths of Abby and Libby. So much confusion, convolution, and just insanity around these sketches. Okay, so with that, I'll continue Skip's words. This was the date of the much anticipated and advertised press conference. That's April 22nd, 2019. Featuring the release of this new suspect sketch, YBG, as I mentioned, a different individual than the Old Bridge guy, a suspect in the age range of 18 to 40, okay? Remember, that first sketch was someone in the 40s to 50s, okay? And it was, the first old guy sketch was said to be an individual in his 40s or 50s. Well, we now move to someone between 18 and 40, okay? There was also information, back to Skip's introduction, information regarding vehicle parked at the CPS building. Okay, now I'd like to say this. For years, no information on any vehicle whatsoever. Although we now know that we have 3 witnesses to various descriptions of vehicles. Okay, and those witnesses are listed here on this witness list that you are looking at. Okay, so this here on this witness list, you have the 3 witnesses to the 3 vehicles. Those witnesses were spoken early on in the investigation. However, we'll be getting into that. But in 2019, you have information regarding a vehicle parked at the CPS building. You have a new voice recording featuring the word guys, as well as a belief that the killer was likely local. ISP Superintendent Doug Carter said the sketch was, quote, the result of new information and intelligence over time, close quotation. Carter also made some pointed remarks that he addressed directly to the killer. One such comment focused on the state of the investigation, where he said, for more than 2 years, you never thought we would shift gears to a different investigative strategy, but we have. Now, this summation that follows and the review of the evidence to support it will show some of the truth about how the investigation was conducted, as well as provide a possible answer to one of the most important questions in the case, and that is what led to this April 2019 press conference and sketch change. So why is the answer to that virtually non-existent if it's so important? Why does no one know the truth to that except supposedly law enforcement? Who's keeping that truth from being told? Well, that determination will be plainly obvious as this view into the investigation unfolds. In summation, the evidence shows that a botched investigation from the beginning had taken place, and that law enforcement has been literally chasing ghosts throughout the investigation. The April 29th sketch change did not come from information or intelligence. It came from an unreliable witness and an inadequate interview process. Possibly more. Well, Skip believes that law enforcement had no clue who Bridge Guy was. And we can somewhat verify this by looking at individuals throughout the community who law enforcement sought, DNA swabbed, and checked alibis for. Just days after the press conference, they were doing the same in 2019. They had no idea about the physical characteristics. 40, 50 years old, large and stocky, with a bad leg, young and agile with a slim build, curly hair, straight hair, facial hair, no facial hair, whole lot of it. They had no idea who Betsy Blair or Sarah Carbo saw. These were previously secondary witnesses, and they became primary due to law enforcement's possible ineptitude, corruption. There are indicators that law enforcement somewhat coerced Sarah Carbo and Rayleigh Voorhees, showing that these witnesses' initial citing was less than adequate. And these puzzle pieces had to be forced into place. And we'll be looking at that later in the show. It also shows that law enforcement has gone to great lengths to keep this truth from being exposed. Their mistakes, incompetence, possible malfeasance are so disastrous and irreparable that a conviction of anyone, and especially of Richard Allen, begins to seem highly unlikely. Now, these witnesses, again, you'll see that half here are law enforcement officers, half here are local residents. Okay, we know for certain that there are individuals who should be on this list and who possibly were at an earlier point in time who are now no longer on this list. Daniel Pearson being a prime example. Okay, and with that, we'll get into Skip's presentation. All right, so Right here, you're looking at the portion of the discovery index. This document indicates who the witnesses were, this portion here, that contributed to sketches. Okay, they include Carl Abbott, Daniel Pearson, Rayleigh Voorhees, Sarah Carbo, and Teresa Liebert. Okay, and I believe that you guys who are deep into researching this case have possibly seen all of these sketches. I believe that I have. Okay. Now take note here that he has highlighted Daniel Pearson as being well, parenthetically included David McCain or one of the McCain brothers. Now, the feeling at this point is that this old guy sketch possibly is the result of Daniel Pearson. But we also know that Daniel Pearson provided an extreme variety of contradictions, bad information, story changes. I mean, just like everything in this case, contradictions galore. Okay, inconsistencies. So just keep this in your mind that we're looking at 5 witnesses with 5 different sketches. Notice Betsy Blair is not on this list. Okay. Now, secondly, you're looking at a be on the lookout. This is published 1 week, 7 days after the murders, asking for the public's help regarding someone seen walking on a road near the crime scene. Okay. Now, this has often been confused with a particular sexual offender whose vehicle had broken down on the highway. But this has never been addressed again by law enforcement. But let's take a look at it. Okay. Let's see if we can see if the prof here can possibly read it for you. It's pretty small. Let's see. It says, if you saw a hitchhiker or somebody walking along the roads in Delphi last week, the police would like you to talk to you. You could help find who killed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Police are asking the public to try and remember if you saw somebody Monday, February 13th in the late afternoon or evening. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I'm trying to read it for you. It says, we are asking people that were driving down the Hoosier Heartland Highway that might have seen a hitchhiker or someone walking. We're asking people that live in Logansport all the way to Lafayette. If they saw somebody late that afternoon, the evening of Monday 13th, if they saw somebody walking down the roadway that just did not look like they should be there, walking down the roadway, just someone that shouldn't be there, or they're just a hitchhiker, we'd like to talk to that person, said Kim Riley, Sergeant Kim Riley of Indiana State Police. They're also looking for leads related to the suspect seen walking on a trail near the Monon High Bridge. Indiana State Police Sergeant Tony Slocum, I apologize here. Okay. There you go. Said the person pictured is our suspect. We are considering at this time, and police would like to arrest him. Delphi Mayor Shane Evans spoke for the first time on Monday about the crime. He said the community will continue to work through the tragedy by coming together. They will not let it tear them apart. The evil that was done is indescribable, but the good that we see in this community is equally indescribable. It's been utterly amazing, said Evans. I'd like to think we can be remembered for that. Well, I would like to counter that point, sir. The teens' bodies were found Tuesday and were positively identified Wednesday. Law enforcement said they are investigating this case as a double homicide. On February 16th, a search warrant was issued for a home on West Bicycle Bridge in Delphi as part of the investigation, but police said no one at the home is considered a suspect. Okay. Now, on July 17th, 2017, ISP released the Old Bridge Guy sketch. Remember, July 17th. Okay, Kim Riley explained how the sketch was created and answered a few questions. Riley also said that one of the witnesses was close enough to him to say that he did not have blue eyes, but was uncertain of his eye color. He also indicated that this witness was a male. Okay, now, close enough to see his eye color, but, well, to say he did not have blue eyes, but not specifically to pinpoint his eye color. But he indicated it was a male, and we know that Carl Abbott and Daniel Pearson are the two males, okay, on the witness list. Now, pardon me. And here we go. We're going to look here. Witnesses aided in sketch of suspect in Indiana teens' deaths. A sketch authorities released Monday, okay, this is July 17th, of a man considered the main suspect in the February killings of two northern Indiana girls was drawn in part from descriptions provided by someone who saw the suspect around the time the girls were slain. Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby said that the witness saw the man walking near Delphi, northwest of Indy, but only recently met with an FBI sketch artist to provide facial details for the rendering released by state police. Lesenby said he cannot discuss where the witness saw the unidentified man, who authorities consider the main suspect in the slayings of the two girls. He said the witness saw the man around the time the girls were killed. The teens vanished February 13, allegedly, while hiking along the trail in Delphi, in their hometown. Their bodies were found the next day in nearby woods. Authorities have not disclosed how the girls were killed. The composite sketch depicts a white man with a prominent nose and a goatee who's wearing a cap and what appears to be a hooded sweater. Police say the suspect has reddish brown hair. Now listen closely to this. Reddish brown hair, stands between 5'6" and 5'10", between 180 and 220 pounds. Now think about this. 40s to 50s, reddish brown hair, 5'6" to 5'10", 180, 220 pounds. Does that sound like Richard Allen? Police asked the public to examine the image, particularly the man's facial features, and contact them with any information that might help them identify him. Now think about this. So confident in this sketch, okay, pardon me, so confident in this sketch that they are asking the public to examine the man's facial features in detail. He said the sketch is an artist's composite of the information collected by all agencies involved in the investigation. Sorry. Riley said the witness who saw the suspect was close enough to him to say he did not have blue eyes, but was uncertain of his eye color. Okay. So, who is our witness? Who is our witness? 5'6" to 5'10", 180 to 220, 40s to 50s, with a face that's very accurately represented by this old guy sketch. And remember, we're talking 2017 here. Put that on hold for a moment. Now let's talk about some others. Okay. Remembering that there were many individuals out there that day. For instance, we know we have Rayleigh and Isabel Voorhees, Bree Wilbur, Anna Spath, Daniel Pearson, Carl Abbott, Betsy Blair, Sarah Carbo. We have some other older folks. Okay. And then you have this individual. My friend showed up around 2:30, while I showed up around 2:45, 2:50. Okay. All of these things you should be keeping in mind while we go forward. Here's the pic that, as far as I know, she only shared with me. This is her friend down at the south end. And I know the time it was taken. After I got out of my car, I was already walking towards a bridge. I had missed phone from a telemarketer, a missed phone call around 2:50. I posted the pictures of the bridge after I left, before the girls were considered missing. You remember those photos. That's why I never released the name of my friend who I was with, or the other two who were at the bridge before me, because I'm saving them from the backlash and drama that came along with it. Okay, now here's an interesting one. I answered a question of yours earlier. The witness that saw him leaving did not report the blue jacket. He only described the short-billed hat and the scarf, or whatever it was, over his face. When he saw Libby's first pic, he was sure that was who he saw. He only spoke twice about what he saw nearly 2 years ago, and would speak no more. I don't have any details about Sheena, other than Cheyenne told a member of our group when he interviewed her multiple times that it was Sheena Dillon that she met that day. That could be the person refers to as Cheyenne refers to as always being, as has been vague about. We settled on it being Cheryl because of the Ingalls connection. Let me ask around. Okay. Then we have, before moving on, keep in mind, we also have classmates of the girls who allegedly were there before, okay, before the alleged arrival of the girls. Now, I'm sorry I'm getting off track here, because there's a lot going on here in my mind, but so Daniel Pearson claimed that he saw Bridge Guy at approximately 3:15 on the trail. And he claimed that this Bridge Guy that he saw was exiting on the trail towards Freedom Bridge, okay? That individual was a male in his 40s, 50s, and was wearing a scarf over his face. Daniel Pearson also stated that he had a female companion, Shelby Hicks, who magically didn't see anything. So, how could Daniel Pearson have seen Bridge Guy exiting towards Freedom Bridge if Bridge Guy was actually over on the road being witnessed by Sarah Carbo? Questions that don't have answers, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, but here you're looking at a blue flag, okay? So what is this? Okay, so what is this thing? This is a flag, many of which were witnessed by several witnesses I am speaking with. Okay, this is not just Skip. I can corroborate this, and I have photographs. several witnesses in the day or two immediately following this incident. Yes, we know who the classmates were. We'll get to that later. Witnessed these blue flags. Okay. Now these blue flags, I'm going to show you you can see here, you see the little blue dots. Okay. These blue dots are the trail that goes on down to the crime scene. And this whole trail down from the crime scene right on up to the main trail was marked in blue flags. I've got several witnesses that can attest to that. Law enforcement placed these blue evidence marker flags along this path down from the crime scene up to the trail. Now, it's Skip's opinion that this is an indication that law enforcement believed that Bridge Guy may have left the path via this trail. Okay, so you have to keep this in mind. You had blue flags lining the trail all the way down to the crime scene. Question is why? Skip's deduction is that these are blue evidence markers outlining the path up from the crime scene to the trail, the main trail, indicating that law enforcement possibly believed the Bridge Guy left via this path on up to the trail. And what's interesting here is this corroborates this corroborates Daniel Pearson's exit sighting of Bridge Guy, who we now believe is McCain. Okay. But what's interesting here is that it's possible that Daniel Pearson's sighting is also has corroborated Rayleigh Voorhees' sighting earlier in the day. Okay, if they are witnessing the same person, which is odd because now, as we're getting into this PCA, you're going to see that now we're at the point where law enforcement doesn't want you to believe that. But the question is, did Daniel Pearson and Rayleigh Voorhees and the girls see the same individual? Law enforcement has an entry witness and an exit witness at this point between Daniel Pearson and Rayleigh Voorhees and the girls. Okay, the problem is the exit witness is not Sarah Carbo. And keeping in mind, this is 2017, 2018, early 2019. So we're postulating here that Daniel Pearson, his sighting for law enforcement becoming an exit witness made sense. Okay, so that Rayleigh Voorhees and the girls and Daniel Pearson see the same person, okay, in law enforcement's eyes prior to 2019. And these blue flags are sort of an indicator that law enforcement's looking at something going down to the crime scene or coming up from that crime scene. Okay. Now, I'd like to show you this one too. So this is just another corroborating receipt. Of the blue flags, and you'll see halfway down it says there were little evidence flags running from the crime scene back up to 501, and some of them are still there. My buddy that lives there and his buddies with Ron Logan saw them immediately after the crime scene was given back to Ron Logan. I can't imagine they show the path he followed back up to the trail. Okay, so sorry guys, I'm a little turned around here, looking for my so here we are. There we go. And there's your trail. Okay, so now we're moving on here. On the first anniversary of the murders, and this is February 13th, Doug Carter was interviewed by Fox 59. He asked whether the killer fled in a vehicle or did he simply walk away. Or he was asked, okay. Carter said, likely walked a certain distance, yes. We don't have any indication he was close by where he parked the vehicle because we don't have any information on a vehicle. Okay, so 1 year after the murders of Abby and Libby, law enforcement did not have information on a vehicle. Is that consistent with what you believe today? Is that consistent with what they want you to believe today? Is it consistent as far as with what's in the PCA? Okay, so let's read it. Why not? Let's read it. All right. Let's go ahead and skip to this page here. You guys can go look this article up if you want. But after a year and no named suspects, we asked Carter, was it time for detectives to release anything else on Libby's phone? He admitted the agency has thought of that before. They ask themselves that question every day, said Carter. That's why we've had a couple of peer reviews done up there too. However, the conclusion is to stick with the plan and count on what's already been released to the public. We have released at this point what we think is relevant to finding the individual. Fox 59 also asked whether the killer fled in a vehicle or did he simply walk away. Carter answered, likely, walked a certain distance, yes. We don't have any indication that he was close by where he parked the vehicle because we don't have any information on a vehicle. Okay? And of course, he ends with, trust us, please trust us, please trust us, please trust us. Okay, a whole lot of trust involved in Doug Carter's world. But you see here, going back to the original date so you can verify for yourself. You see the date there? You see that? February 13th, 2018. And you just read it for yourself. We don't have any information on a vehicle a year in, okay? A year in. Keep that in your mind while we go forward. Okay, I'm showing you everything here so you can look it up. Now, this is a message from, let's see. I don't know if I want to name him, honestly, but this is an individual who had a lot of good information early on, okay? He says BG was with the girls for at least 20 minutes after Derek German arrived. Derek German arrived at 3:11. So that puts Bridge Guy with the girls until at least 3:31, 3:30, say. Well, why is that important? Because that conflicts with Daniel Pearson's sighting at 3:15, right? So Derek German arrives at 3:11. This individual, who's a good source, says that he's BG's with the girls for at least 20 minutes after Derek German arrived. Does this put Bridge Guy with the girls until 3:30? So how could he be exiting at 3:15 when Daniel Pearson sees him? Well, is Daniel Pearson wrong? All right. Let's see what we got here. Sorry about that. We'll skip this one. Okay. I'm trying to keep up here with Mr. Skip's information. Let's see. Okay, now we're going to be moving on. Uh, there's some things I'm going to circle back to. So let me just cover this, then I'll circle back. GMA here interviews Doug Carter regarding the new direction, okay? And this is May 15th, 2019. This is about a month after the change of direction, okay? Well, he states that the previous sketch, the old bridge guy, was, quote, based on a previous witness. Okay, we know that Daniel Pearson's sighting was allegedly 3:15. Well, if Bridge Guy is with the girls until 3:31 or 3:30, does this conflict to the point where it no longer works as a timeline? Does this timeline conflict so dramatically in combination with other questionable aspects of Daniel Pearson's witnessing that Daniel Pearson drops off of the radar? Okay, because remember this. What name do you not see there? Okay, Daniel Pearson. Okay, let's read this. It's been more than 2 years. Remember, this is a month after the change of direction. 2 years since Abby Williams and Liberty German were found dead in Delphi, Indiana, but investigators believe they're close to finding the killer. We're one tip away from success, says always optimistic gaslighting Doug Carter. He told Good Morning America in an interview airing Wednesday. Carter said his team has received more than 42,000 tips since 2017. The girls were both middle schoolers and vanished after hiking at Delphi Historic Trails, allegedly, on February 13th. Their bodies were found the next day, about a half mile away from where they had been dropped off. Not to say that they were never moved elsewhere, but that's a whole other story. Authorities have not released information on how the girls died. Well, we know now. But Carter says he believes the killer is hiding within the close-knit Delphi community. He said someone knows who the killer is, but afraid to come forward. I agree with that totally, 100,000%, Doug Carter. If somebody knows something, they need to tell us. I think they're afraid to. Somebody knows who that person is. Police issued a new sketch last month. That's April 2019, showing a male suspect thought to be between 18 and 40 years old. Investigators had previously released a different composite sketch that was, quote, based on a previous witness, according to Carter. Okay, and we believe that is Daniel Pearson. Somebody that commits a horrific crime like this against two little girls probably has shown signs of violence in the past. I agree with that, Doug. He didn't just all of a sudden decide to do this one day. And I agree with that, Mr. Dougie Carter. All right. Look at those sweethearts right there. He said it could be a family member, friend, or some other person that knows something happened after that day and noticed a change in the suspect. Carter said he believes the killer lives in, works in, or frequents the Delphi area, but declined to elaborate on why he believes that. Now, this is an interesting tidbit here. One day I'll be able to tell you, I can't wait for that day. Oh, we can't wait either, Mr. Carter. We are doing everything within our power, and when we run out of tips, we're going to start over again. I bet you fucking did, Doug Carter. Police arrested an Indiana man in September 2017 that authorities initially said could be related to the killings. Yes, the Nothing Burger Daniel Nations. Daniel Nations was taken into custody in Colorado after threatening people near a hiking trail with a hatchet. Investigators later revealed that Nations was not someone they care a whole lot about. Yes, because we know a hatchet was not used in the murders anyway. Police previously released a photo of a suspect that shows a man wearing blue jeans, blue coat, and a hoodie. Authorities also released audio of a male saying the words "down the hill" with the hopes that someone might be able to identify the suspect's voice, but of course no one has. The voice recording was taken from a video found on Libby's cell phone, police said. Yes, a 43-second video, no shorter, no longer. Let's put that rumor to rest, and we know who's out there spreading that rumor. Carter said the case keeps him up at night. I bet it does. We're going to continue to push and push and push until we get that final piece of the information. Yeah, that elusive final piece of the puzzle that Doug Carter has always paraded in front of our faces. We know significantly more information, but we're not going to talk about that because the only other person who knows that is the killer. Yeah, I don't know, Doug. I really don't know. All right. Now, you see that? ABC News. If somebody knows something, they need to tell us. I think they're afraid. Somebody knows who this person is. Police issued a new sketch last month showing a male suspect thought to be between 18 and 40 years old. Investigators had previously released a different composite sketch, that's an Old Bridge guy, based on a previous witness. Okay. Before we get to this, let me remove it. All right, so let's do some talking here. Because there's some things that Skip wanted me to show that I don't want to show, but I'm going to talk about. And I can just as easily talk about them. Okay. First of all, I have some questions about some court orders here. And I want you guys in the audience to ponder this and think about if it was your children, if it were your children here, okay? We have a court order for Libby's phone. Let me do it this way. Let me ask the chat, what date do you think that court order is from for the content of Libby's phone? If it were your daughter, what date would that be? Okay, I see. Yes, if it was your child, I agree. I agree, guys. It would be the day those girls were found. I would be writing up that Apple court order. But no, October 23rd, 2017. That is eight months and 10 days. 8 months and 10 days later, Apple receives a request. It gets better. It gets better. There's a court order to Google for 2 Gmail accounts belonging to Abby Williams. 2 Gmail accounts. What date do we believe that that would have been done? I won't make you wait. April 5th, 2018. More than a year and a month. April 5th, 2018, for Abby's 2 Gmail accounts, okay? Now, I'd like to also remind you that in February of 2019, there was a press conference, an anniversary press conference, February 2019. It was a normal, nothing burger press conference. Okay. The same month, Hannah Shakespeare visited Delphi in support of the documentary she was working on for Lifetime Television Network. Well, during her time there, Hannah interviewed Rayleigh Voorhees, several other locals, also Tobe Lesenby. Hannah Shakespeare asked Tobe if law enforcement currently had a witness who saw Bridge Guy exiting toward Freedom Bridge. Tobe acknowledged in February 2019 they had that particular witness, and that witness was Daniel Pearson. Okay? So this verifies what we speculated to earlier, that Daniel Pearson was a primary witness, witnessed who they believed up at least until February 2019 was Bridge Guy, was the old guy sketch. Verified by Tobe Lesenby in February 2019 to Hannah Shakespeare. Now, would Tobe had told that to Hannah if he knew that in April there would be a huge change? This shows you that a reasonable person would assume that at least until February 2019, there was no indication of a change. And Daniel Pearson was most certainly a primary witness of the old Bridge Guy leaving toward Freedom Bridge. Hannah Shakespeare also repeats this on in several places on YouTube that you can go and find it. Okay, I'm not going to play it here to allow them to copyright strike me because they are hateful. Now, here's where it gets juicy. I don't know if I can find it this quickly. Let's see where it is. Well, first let's put this up. Nope, that's not it. But since we're looking at this is Doug Rice, rest in peace, alleging that Rayleigh's mom reached out to him saying that law enforcement interviewed her again. Now look, this is March 2020. March 2020. Okay. Law enforcement reached out to Rayleigh again in the last several months and basically tried to get her to agree to the recent sketch, the young Bridge Guy, and that is who she saw. When she didn't go along, they told her she wasn't a credible witness. I'll let that simmer for a while I find what I wanted to find next, because there's a lot here. So let's see what I'm looking for. Okay, I found what I'm looking for. Not sure if I have it here. Okay, so I don't have it here. For some reason, I missed it in this slideshow, but take a look at it. Okay, I'll just show it to the camera. Let's remove this. Okay, let's remove this. Show it to the camera. You guys see that? 4/1/2019, Sarah Carbo. 4/2/2019, Betsy Blair. Okay, April 1st and 2nd, Sarah and Betsy. April 1st and 2nd. April 1st and 2nd. This is from the Discovery Index, showing that Sarah and Betsy were brought in for interviews on April 1st and 2nd. Well, what else happened in April? 2 weeks later, you have the Young Bridge Guy sketch released, press conference, change of direction, etc., etc. Okay. Well, I would put that at 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Okay. So April 1st and 2nd, Sarah Carbo, Betsy Blair, who are central to this, come in to be re-interviewed, and suddenly we have a change of direction. 3 weeks later, everything's put into place, and we're going to get into that now. Okay. The age range drops from 40s to 50s, like I said, to 18 to 40. Suddenly, we have multiple vehicles being witnessed, one of which becomes Alan's magically, but we'll get into that as well. Okay. We also get to the fact that now Bridge Guy is local. Okay. And the other things that I mentioned, his weight changed, his body changed, we suddenly have all of this change. All right, now, we know now that an arrest was made on October 28, 2022 for Richard Allen. Doug Carter had said previously that when this PCA is released, et cetera, that it would clear up a lot of things, and it didn't. It didn't. It actually has caused more confusion, and there's been so much consternation, and you're going to find out why if you already don't know. There's so many improprieties and inconsistencies, highlighted by the fact that, or the revelation that law enforcement lost the first full week of interviews, first 70 days of investigative material. We got new witnesses. All of a sudden, these two, Betsy Blair and Sarah Carbo, become witnesses. Suddenly, we have, instead of Bridge Guy exiting out towards Freedom Bridge, now he's going over onto the road on 300. We have Tony Liggett apparently seeming to misrepresent the statements of witnesses in order to build the story, and also misrepresent descriptions. We have lost witness statements. We have just a travesty of developments that we've been criticizing here on this channel and other channels like us for the past year and a half. Now, you have to ask yourself, are we dealing with mistakes, or are we dealing with something worse? All right. So closing up with Skip's portion here before I move on to this PCA. Skip says, I bet I've heard 50 different variations of Daniel Pearson's story. I'm sure he had no idea, just like a lot of people, that this case would become what it has become. One of the problems with this case is that we don't consume information in a linear manner. Everyone came and comes to this case at different times, and we all have different starting points, and we all have to backtrack. We all have things we believe credible, things we don't. When you go through the case and look at it chronologically, it changes everything. And that's called building a timeline. And it's something we've been working on here. And I know that many others have as well. In Skip's research, he found that one thing was apparent, that the versions changed significantly and started coming from different sources. Okay. And this is why Skip has focused on this change of direction press conference, where the age, the face, the presence or absence of a vehicle, the timeline, the witnesses all change. Okay, and this is Skip's concern here. He says, like I mentioned, there was a version of the story that Daniel Pearson had recanted his testimony because he saw a flannel shirt guy. Okay, and we do have a receipt for that where he confirms that McCain is who he saw, but never once was when he recanted his story. So why did Daniel Pearson suddenly drop from our witness list? And is it somehow related to the old bridge guy sketch dropping, and the age and the face and the vehicle and all of this? Okay, or the lack of vehicle. But he says, later I discovered that the flannel shirt guy version didn't exist until May 2020. It came from a text between Daniel Pearson and Sean Palmy. Oddly enough, it happened the same day Doug Rice passed, he says. So how did he recant before April 29, 2019, if he didn't claim it was flannel shirt guy until over a year later? Okay, he didn't even know who McCain was until he saw a photo, which he then confirmed as being the person he saw. Anyone who started following this case after that date would be hearing that as truth. Again, Skip doesn't think he saw anything. He says, I think he was a younger guy who got caught in a compromising situation and panicked, and that's why the story spun out of control. After the sketch changed, there was some intentional misinformation also released, but it became a game of telephone. He also believes if Doug Rice had not passed away, that the case would be totally different. As for law enforcement, he says that's a different story. Their handling of the sketch change and all the circumstances surrounding it has been less than stellar. And that's being nice, and I agree. How the hell does not one person know the truth about the biggest event in the investigation? And why is there so much misinformation on social media? Well, I can answer that for you, Skip. It's because it's purposely interjected into the Delphi murders social media narrative. Okay, for sure. And Skip closes with saying, we can deduce that Daniel Pearson was a contributor to the Old Guy sketch because he's listed as a sketch contributor in the Discovery Index. He was a witness during the time that the Old Guy sketch was featured. The presence of the blue flags along that trail down to the crime scene, plus Tobe's comments, show that Ellie believed Bridge Guy left via the Freedom Bridge. And Daniel Pearson was that witness. So the biggest question for Skip was, did law enforcement believe that Daniel Pearson and Sarah Carbo's sightings were the same person? It seems to suggest that Sarah Carbo is the witness that led to the be on the lookout, but she didn't come forward until 4 months after the murders. The bolo was released a week after the murders. So how do you align that? How do you align that bolo a week after the murders? That's a question for me as well. And in closing, he says, my biggest issue is the loss of the interviews from the first 70 days includes all of the people being discussed. Isn't that just rich? Okay. So now we're getting into a story. Okay. We're going to look at a story here. Pardon me one moment while I cough. All right, so here we go. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, this is something else. This has been a lot of work putting together, but I'm happy to have done it for you. I believe this is possibly the first time this will have been done. Hey, this is the following is tentative and open for revision or correction as more comes to light. But tentatively, this is what I have for you, and I hope that you enjoy it because, like I said, this was a lot of work, and I think this will help a lot of you understand what's going on, and particularly before we get to that with these people here. I'm going to keep putting this in your face here, so you understand what we're about to talk about. Okay, because remember, my contention is that this right here that you're looking at is all about a story. It's fantasy world. Okay, this right here you're looking at is all about a story. Okay, so right now we're going to look at this, and then we're going to look at this and tell you a story. Okay, this is the story that's being told. Through interviews, reviews of electronic records, and review of video at Hoosier Harvest Store, investigators believe Victim 1 and Victim 2 were dropped off across from the Mears farm at 1:49 p.m. on February 13th, 2017 by KG. The Mears farm is located on the north side of County Road 300 North near an entrance to the trails. A video from Victim 2 phone shows that at 2:13 p.m., Victim 1 and Victim 2 encountered a male subject on the southeast portion of the Monon High Bridge. Okay. Keep in mind that I've highlighted particular statements that I want you to focus on. The male ordered the girls, guys down the hill. No witnesses saw them after this time. No outgoing communication found on Victim 2's phone after this time. Their bodies were discovered on February 14th, 2017. The video recovered from Victim 2's phone shows Victim 1 walking southeast on the Monon High Bridge while a male subject wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. As the male subject approaches Victim 1 and Victim 2, one of the victims mentions gun. Near the end of the video, a male is seen and heard telling the girls, guys down the hill. The girls then proceed down the hill and the video ends. A still photograph from the video and the guys down the hill audio was subsequently released to the public to assist investigators in identifying the male. Let me back that up. I'd like you to focus on that last highlighted comment down in the center of the page. Notice how the verbiage changes, and this is concerning here. We're talking about a male subject, right? So let's read these two sentences to give you the context. As the male subject approaches Victim 1 and Victim 2, one of the victims mentions guns. Near the end of the video, a male subject is seen and heard telling the girls, guys down the hill. Why not the male subject? Is this the same male subject? It's interesting, isn't it? The proper way to phrase that sentence, if it had been the same male subject that was pictured in the video, would have been near the end of the video, the male subject is seen and heard telling the girls, guys down the hill. But no. The way that they chose to phrase this was near the end of the video, a male is seen and heard telling the girls, guys down the hill. So is it the same male who was seen approaching the girls? It's interesting. We'll get back into why I'm questioning these possible two male subjects. Okay. Victim 1 and Victim two's deaths were ruled as homicides, clearly. Clothes were found in Deer Creek belonging to Victim 1 and Victim 2, south of where their bodies were located. There was also a .40 caliber unspent round less than 2 feet away from Victim two's body, between Victim 1 and Victim two's bodies. The round was unspent and had extraction marks on it. Interviews were conducted with 3 juveniles, BB and SC. They advised they were on the Monon High Bridge Trail on February 13, 2017. They advised they were walking on the trail toward Freedom Bridge to go home, so they were leaving, when they encountered a male walking from Freedom Bridge toward Monon High Bridge. A S described the male as kind of creepy and advised he was wearing like blue jeans and like a light blue jacket, and his hair was gray, maybe a little brown. And he did not really show his face. Now let me ask, does that sound like a redhead to you? Reddish brown? Anyway, moving right along. She advised the jacket was a duck canvas type jacket. RV advised she said hi to the male, but he just glared at them. She recalled him being in all black and had something covering his mouth. She described him as not very tall with a bigger build. She said he was not bigger than 5'10". RV advised he was wearing a black hoodie and black blue jeans and black boots. Now listen, why do you think I am now postulating we may be looking at 2 males? Is this your guy in all black? Black hoodie, black jeans, black boots, in all black? That's different than the previous witness who says, really light blue jacket. Make it make sense. She stated he had his hands in his pockets. BW showed investigators photographs she took on her phone while she was on the trail that day. The photographs included a photo of the Monon High Bridge taken at 12:43 p.m. and another one taken at 1:26 p.m. of the bench east of Freedom Bridge. BW advised after she took the photo of the bench, they started walking back toward Freedom Bridge. She advised that was when they encountered the man who matched the description. So this is after 1:26. BW described the man she encountered on the trail as wearing a blue or black windbreaker jacket. She advised the jacket had a collar and he had his hood up from the clothing underneath his jacket. She advised he was wearing baggy jeans and was taller than her. Now, she's not a short girl. She's not a short girl, guys. She's a big girl. She advised her head came up to approximately his shoulder. She advised RV said hi to the man and he said nothing back. She stated he was walking with a purpose, like he knew where he was going. She stated he had his hands in his pockets and kept his head down. She advised she did not get a good look at his face, but believed him to be a white male. The girls advised after encountering the male, they continued to walk across Freedom Bridge and the old railroad bridge over Old State Road 25. Investigators spoke with BB, who advised she was on the trails February 13th, 2017. Video from the Hoosier Harvest Store captured BB's vehicle traveling eastbound at 1:46 p.m. toward the entrance across from the Mears farm. BB advised she saw 4 juvenile females walking on the bridge over Old State Road 25 as she was driving underneath on her way to park. BB advised there were no other cars. Listen to that. 1:46 p.m. No other cars parked across from the Mears farm when she parked. She advised she walked to the Monon High Bridge and observed a male matching the one from victim two's video. She described the male she saw as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jean jacket. What happened to all black? She advised he was standing on the first platform of the Monon High Bridge, approximately 50 feet from her. She advised she turned around at the bridge and continued her walk. She advised approximately halfway between the bridge and the parking area across from Mears farm, she passed two girls walking toward Monon High Bridge. Ah, two girls. She advised she believed the girls were victim one and victim two. She believed. She doesn't know. Video from the Harvest store shows at 1:49 p.m. a white car matching KG's vehicle traveling away from the entrance across from the Mears farm. BB advised she finished her walk and saw no other adults other than the male on the bridge. Her vehicle is seen on the Hoosier Harvest store video at 2:14 p.m. Well, isn't that interesting? 1 minute after 2:13, we have her traveling, leaving westbound from the trails. BB advised when she was leaving, while she noted a vehicle was parked in an odd manner at the old CPS building. She said it was not odd for vehicles to be parked there, but she noticed it was odd because of the manner it was parked, backed in near the building. Investigators received a tip from TW in which he stated he was on his way to Delphi on State Road 25 around 2:10 p.m. on February 13, 2017. He observed a purple PT Cruiser, or a small type SUV vehicle, parked on the south side of the old CPS building. He stated it appears as it had been backed in to conceal the license plate of the vehicle. BB and TW both drew diagrams of where they say the vehicle parked, and their diagrams generally matched as to the area the vehicle was parked and the manner in which it was parked. And I should also say the time. WM advised he remembered seeing a smaller, dark-colored car parked at the old CPS building. He described it as possibly being a smart car. WM's vehicle is seen leaving at 2:28 p.m. on the Hoosier Harvest store video. Odd, isn't it? Investigators spoke with SC, who stated that she was traveling east on 300 North on February 13, 2022, and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North, away from the Monon High Bridge. SC advised that the male subject was wearing, and I highlighted this. Sorry, I should have flipped the page for you. I apologize for missing the page turn. I put a red box around this because of how preposterous it is, and you're going to find out why later. She advised that the male subject was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. Now, that particular statement in the box, in the red box there, should be enough to dismiss the case. You're going to find out why. We're getting there. She further stated that it appeared he had gotten into a fight. Investigators were able to determine from watching the video from the Hoosier Harvest store that SC was traveling on CR 300 North at approximately 3:57 p.m. Through interviews, electronic data, photographs, and video from the Hoosier Harvest store, investigators determined that there were other people on the trail that day after 2:13 p.m. Those people were interviewed, and none of those individuals encountered the male subject referenced above. Witnessed by the juvenile girls, BB and SC, the two adults. Further, none of these individuals witnessed victim 1 and 2. So no one saw the male subject. No one saw the 2 victims. You're stuck with the aforementioned witnesses. I'd also like to interject here that SC, traveling on County Road 300 North at approximately 3:57 p.m. and witnessing a male subject, muddy and bloody, wearing a blue colored jacket, which we know did not happen. How does that time rectify with Derek German arriving prior to 3:30, BG being witnessed possibly by Daniel Pearson at 3:15? So you're telling me that BG, if that's who for the first 2 years was thought to be witnessed by Daniel Pearson at 3:15, he leaves, goes to Freedom Bridge, and then malingers around County Road 300 North until nearly 4 o'clock p.m.? That never made sense. See, that whole story never made sense. Moving right along, though. We're going to get to some other contradictions. Investigators reviewing prior tips encountered a tip narrative from an officer who interviewed Richard Allen, one which we do not have a recording for, by the way. Keep that in mind. No recording. I'm going to skip over it because we'll get to it later. But you see, this is the Dan Doolin tip narrative here. Okay. That alleges that Allen was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30. Okay. 1:30 and 3:30. Investigators believe the females he saw, meaning Richard Allen, included Rayleigh Voorhees and Bree Wilbur, due to the time they were leaving the trail, the time he reported getting to the trail, and the descriptions the 3 females gave. Investigators discovered Richard Allen owned 2 vehicles in 2017, a 2016 black Ford Focus and a 2006 gray Ford 500. Investigators, quote, observed a vehicle that resembles Allen's 2016 Ford Focus on the Hoosier Harvest Store video at 1:27 p.m., traveling westbound on County Road 300 North in front of the Hoosier Harvest Store, which coincided with his statement that he arrived around 1:30 p.m. at the trails. Did he say he arrived? Here's the deal. That 1:27 p.m. recording, if it was his vehicle, does it show him leaving or arriving? Keep that in the back of your mind. Investigators note witnesses described the vehicle parked at the former CPS building as a PT Cruiser, a small SUV or smart car. Well, we know we have 3 witnesses, right? 3 witnesses to a vehicle. You have WM, BB, and TW. Those are your 3 witnesses to a vehicle. Each of those witnesses gives a different depiction of a different vehicle. WM describes a particular vehicle, BB describes a particular vehicle, and TW describes a particular vehicle. None of those match. However, somehow magically, in our PCA here, we have all of those vehicles becoming one vehicle, which is a 2016 Ford Focus belonging to Richard Allen. There was also a white pickup described early, yes, and that was alleged to have been either Daniel Pearson's or Tony Klein's. Tony Klein had a white pickup, a Ram, and Daniel Pearson had a white pickup. We also have one of our sisters describing a black SUV with a bunch of stickers. There's so many vehicle descriptions that are in the ethers. But right now, anyway, I'll circle back to this PCA because I'm trying to tell this story without those stories. But you all know the other vehicles that have all been brought into this. Really, there are many vehicles, but they all somehow become our three witnesses. Back to our witnesses, WM, TW, and BB, all describe their three different vehicles, which magically all become a 2016 Ford Focus, which is seen on camera at 1:27 p.m. But how do we know if that vehicle is leaving or if it's arriving? Is that vehicle coming or going? What is that vehicle doing at 1:27 p.m.? We'll be getting into that. Back to the story that Tony Liggett is telling. On October 13th, 2022, Allen was interviewed again by investigators. He advised he was on the trails on February 13th, 2017. Yes, but what time? He said he saw juvenile girls on the trails east of Freedom Bridge and that he went onto the Monon High Bridge. Richard Allen further stated he went out onto the Monon High Bridge to watch the fish. Later in his statement, he said he walked out to the first platform on the bridge. He stated he then walked back, sat on the bench on the trail, and left. He stated he parked his car on the side of an old building. He told investigators he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood. He advised he may have been wearing some type of head covering as well. He further claimed he saw no one else except for the juvenile girls he saw east of Freedom Bridge. And we believe that's Rayleigh and Isabel Voorhees, Bree Wilbur, and Anna Spath. Richard Allen's wife, Kathy, He told investigators that he owns firearms and that they are at his home. Richard Allen's wife, Kathy Allen, also spoke to investigators. She confirmed that Richard did have guns and knives at the residence. She also stated that Richard still owns a blue Carhartt jacket. On October 13th, 2022, hold on. If Richard was murdering these girls in a blue Carhartt jacket, don't you think he would have burned that damn thing? Certainly, it would have been covered in blood. Question for the investigators. When you checked the jacket for blood and DNA, did you find DNA and blood on that blue Carhartt jacket? Yes or no? On October 13th, 2022, investigators executed a search warrant of Richard Allen's residence. Among other items, officers located jackets, boots, knives, and firearms, including a 6-hour Model P226 40 caliber pistol with serial number U625627. And pretty much any person they would execute a search warrant at in the state of Indiana, they would probably find something similar. Knives, boots, firearms, jackets, blue jeans. Between October 14th and October 19th, 2022, the Indiana State Police Laboratory performed an analysis of the 6-hour Model P226 belonging to Richard Allen. The laboratory performed a physical examination and classification of the firearm, function test, barrel and overall length measurement, test firing, ammunition component characterization, microscopic comparison, and knee beam. The laboratory determined the unspent round located within 2 feet of the victim's body had been cycled through Richard Allen's 6-hour Model P226. The laboratory remarked, an identification opinion is reached when the evidence exhibits an agreement of class characteristics and a sufficient agreement of individual marks. Sufficient agreement is related to the significant duplication of random striated impressed marks as evidenced by the correspondence of a pattern or combination of patterns on surface contours. The interpretation of identification is subjective in nature. Oh, yes, it is. Because we know there is no science of extraction marks. The science is in fired cartridges. And based on relevant scientific research, and the reporting examiner's training and experience. Yes, that means it's opinion-based, and any ballistics expert called by the defense will totally destroy the state's expert for ballistics, so that's out. Investigators then read the firearm and found that the firearm was purchased by Richard Allen in 2001. Richard Allen voluntarily came to the ISP post on October 26, 2022. He spoke with investigators and stated he never allowed anyone to use or borrow the six-hour Model P226 firearm. When asked about the unspent bullet, he did not have an explanation of why the bullet was found between the bodies of victims 1 and 2. He again admitted that he was on the trails but denied knowing victim 1 or 2 and denied any involvement in the murders, and maybe he was telling the truth. CCSO Detective Tony Liggett has been part of the investigation since it started in 2017. He has an opportunity to review and examine evidence gathered in this investigation, and Detective Tony Liggett, along with other investigators, believe the evidence gathered shows that Richard Allen is the male subject seen on the video from victim 2's phone, who forced the victims down the hill. Further, that the victims were forced down the hill by Richard Allen and led to the location where they were murdered. Yes, but guess what? There are many other individuals who fit the face of that individual much better than Richard Allen. Through the statements and photographs of the juvenile victims, and we are meaning Isabel, Bree, and Anna, and Rayleigh, RV and BW were at the southeast edge of the trail at 2:43 p.m. east of Freedom Bridge at 1:26 and walked across the former railroad overpass after 1:26 and before 1:46. They walked the entirety of the trail and observed only one person, an adult male. BB's vehicle is seen on the Hoosier Harvest Store video at 1:46 p.m. and leaving at 2:14 p.m. and she stated she only saw one adult male. AS and BW described the male in similar manners, wearing similar clothing, leading the investigators to believe all four saw the same individual. Yes, but RV described a male in all black, black boots, black jeans, black clothing. So two of the girls saw someone dressed similar to Bridge Guy, quote unquote. One, we don't have a description. We have nothing from Isabel Voorhees. Nothing. Rayleigh, though, gives us all in black. Investigators believe the male observed by AS and BW is the same male depicted in the video from victim 2's phone due to descriptions of the male by those two. Because remember, the other two descriptions, we have none from one of the Voorhees, and we have a conflicting all in black description from the other Voorhees. You just can't make this shit up. I mean, furthermore, victim 2's video was taken at 2:13 p.m. and BB saw only one male while she was on the trail from approximately 1:46 to 2:14. Investigators believe Richard Allen was the male seen by SC and BB and the male seen in victim 2's video. Richard Allen told investigators he was on the trail from 1:30 to 3:30. Well, that's a point of contention. We'll get to that in a moment. Video from the Hoosier Harvest Store shows a vehicle that matches the description of Richard Allen's vehicle passing at 1:27 toward the former CPS building, but we don't know if he's coming or going. The clothing he told investigators he was wearing matched the clothing of the male in victim 2's video. Fair enough. And the clothing descriptions provided by AS and BW. Well, that's not completely true. A vehicle matching the description of his 2016 Ford Focus is seen at or around 2:10, 2:14, and 2:28 at the former CPS building. But remember, the three vehicle witnesses, WM, TW, and BB, all give different accounts. Through his own admissions, Richard Allen walked the trails and eventually hiked to the Monon High Bridge and walked out onto the Monon High Bridge. Yes, but at what time is the real question. A male subject matching Richard Allen's description was not seen on the trail after 2:13 p.m. Was one seen after 1:30 p.m.? That's my question. If he claims he left at 1:30, did anyone see him after 1:30? Investigators identified other individuals on the trails or on CR 300 North between 2:30 and 4:11 p.m. Yeah, I'd like to speak to all of them too. I'd also like to speak to the classmates who were there before the time uh, of 1 p.m. None of these individuals saw a male subject matching the description of Richard Allen on the trail. Furthermore, Richard Allen stated he only saw 3 girls on the trail who investigators believe to be 3 of the 4. Isn't that an irony? He keeps saying he saw 3 girls, right? So Richard Allen's statement is he saw 3 girls, but we know there were 4. There were Rayleigh plus 3. Okay, are you guys aware of that in this chat? Again, Rayleigh, Isabel, Bree, and Anna. Rayleigh, Isabel, Bree, and Anna. That's 4. Why does Richard Allen constantly refer to 3? And why does our detective constantly refer to 3? Why don't we have anything whatsoever from Isabel? Questions. Investigators believe Richard Allen was not seen on the trail after 2:13 p.m. because he was in the woods. Here's another belief. Okay, this is a belief. Remember this. Remember, this is a belief. An unspent .40 caliber round between the bodies of victim 1 and 2 was forensically determined to have been cycled through Richard Allen's Sig Sauer model P226, but that forensics is not forensics. That is an opinion of someone working for the prosecutor, okay? We know that you can find 75% more ballistics experts who will say that that is not a ballistic science that is reliable, and you cannot make that statement forensically. The Sig Sauer model P226 was found at Richard Allen's residence, and he admitted to owning it. Why wouldn't he admit to owning his own gun? Investigators were able to determine that he owned it since 2001. Fine. Richard Allen stated he had not been on that property where the unspent round was found, and maybe he told the truth. He did not know the property owner, and I can agree to that. I have not found any evidence whatsoever that he knew the property owner, but I found plenty that everyone else mentioned around this case knew Ron Logan. Okay? It's known that the Kleins knew Ron Logan, were family friends. It's known that the Garrett Kurtz family knew Ron Logan, were family friends. It's known that the Holders knew Ron Logan, were family friends. It's known that a whole bunch of people knew Ron Logan, were family friends, but not Richard Allen. He had no explanation as to why a round cycled through his firearm would be at that location. Furthermore, he stated he never allowed anyone to use or borrow the Sig Sauer model P226. Investigators believe that after the victims were murdered, Richard Allen returned to his vehicle by walking down 300 North. But remember, prior, we believe we have been able to put together that they had prior believed that he, whoever the murderer was, returned from the crime scene up from Ron Logan's up to 501 on out towards the Freedom Bridge and had been witnessed by Daniel Pearson and Shelby Hicks. Okay. Investigators believe he was seen by SC walking back to his vehicle on 300 North, and his clothes were muddy and bloody. Well, we're going to counteract that too, because we know that there's some contention around that phrase. TL, Tony Liggett, along with investigators, believe the statements made by the witnesses because the statements corroborate the timeline of death of the 2 victims, as well as coincide with the admissions made by Richard Allen. Further, the accounts relayed by AS and BB are similar in nature, and timestamps on photographs taken by BW correspond to the times the juvenile females said they were on the trail and saw a male individual. Yeah, but... And here you go, the long sought after 8th page. Okay. What this 8th page does, is it shows you the date. October 27th, 2022. It shows you Judge Diener, Nicholas McClelland. Okay, this is your 8th page. Now, secondly, we're going to take a look at another essential component of understanding this. Let's see if I can get my eyes on it so that I can actually not squint and looking at the screen. Let's see here. All right, so what you're looking at here is the return from the search warrant of Richard Allen's property. Okay, I'd like to call your attention to some details here. This list here remember that the search warrant was October 13th. Pardon me again. I'd like you to recall that October 13th, a search warrant was exercised. The affidavit for the search warrant is where I actually was able to find the proper names to fill in the redactions on the document I just read to you. So the accuracy is extremely high, but as I said, it's open to revision should some points of clarity come. But for now, I'm pretty confident in most of that. But that affidavit for the search warrant does name all of the names for the most part, with the exception of one of the vehicle witnesses, who we know as WM. Okay, now let's take a look at the results of the search warrant performed upon Richard Allen's property. I'd like you to keep in mind that where you see the X indicates that a lab has examined, or that the material has been submitted for a laboratory examination. Okay, so first of all, cardboard box containing a black Sig Sauer 40 caliber handgun. Lab, sent to lab. Okay. Sealed plastic bag containing 140 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge found in wooden keepsake box on dresser between both closets in master bedroom. Okay, so that's an interesting piece, because I'll have to say this, playing devil's advocate. Should the extraction marks on that particular cartridge identically match that found at the crime scene, it would be reason for pause. Keeping in mind, however, that it's still not a tried and true forensic science, and the fact that we have zero documentation that we are aware of the finding, the marking, and the removal of the unspent round from the crime scene. We also don't know the timeline of when that was done. There were rumors that it was performed or it was taken without documentation after the crime scene had been released. Sealed plastic bag containing 140 caliber Smith & Wesson cartridge found inside the handgun. Sealed plastic bag containing 2 magazines, one filled with 9 40 caliber cartridges and one with 8 40 caliber cartridges. Sealed paper bag containing 1 black Sig Sauer handgun case containing 1 trigger lock with 2 keys. Okay, so that does it for the gun. Okay, so that's everything from the gun. Sealed paper bag containing a paper wrapped wooden weave box containing 2 AudioVox device, 1 silver Motorola flip phone, 1 silver Motorola flip phone, 4 car chargers, 3 wall outlet chargers. Sealed plastic bag containing 1 Lexar compact flash 1 gigabyte memory card. All right. sealed paper bag containing, and from here on out, I'm going to skip the sealed paper bag or envelope because we all know that they put things in bags and envelopes. Anyway, one pair of dirty Thorogood boots, size 7.5 men's. One pair of dirty black boots, 6.5 regular. One silver double-edged knife in a silver metal sheath. One brown and gold and silver folding knife. One black sheath containing one brown and gold and silver folding knife. One sheath containing one black handheld silver-bladed imperial knife. One black sheath containing one foldable knife with a red gold handle. One sheath containing two Ozark Trail knives. One sheath containing one knife with a wood ivory handle and a gold guard. Okay. One rusted old-timer folding knife, one sharp two-bladed folding knife, one black folding Gerber knife, and one black folding knife. One red-handled Crosley multi-tool, one blue multi-tool, one green and gold Indiana National Guard multi-tool, one black multi-tool. One black sheath containing a brown-handled silver-bladed saber Bowie. Now, those are all the knives or bladed weapons. Question for the idiots. Did you see a single box cutter? Well, here's the interesting thing, because we have someone who's spoken with Miss Kathy Allen. Yes, the house contained several box cutters. No, they did not take a single box cutter. That should put a rest to that. One blue jacket with red stripes, Adidas. One blue quarter zip sweatshirt. One black and green Fox hooded sweatshirt. One black and gray North End coat. One blue Carhartt coat. One pair Timberland boots. One pair blue Arizona jeans, size 34 by 29. One pair blue Arizona jeans, 34.29. One pair blue Arizona jeans, 34.29. One pair Levi jeans, 34.29. One blue Levi jeans, 34.29. One winter gray hat with fur-like fibers. One black and red UFC hooded sweatshirt with full zip. One quarter zip George sweatshirt. One black and blue quarter zip Walmart sweatshirt. One blue George sweatshirt quarter zip. One blue Kenneth Cole sweatshirt. One blue Fruit of Loom sweatshirt. One blue starter sweatshirt. One black spider hooded sweatshirt. One black sweatshirt with an old label. One blue Adidas sweatshirt. One brown fitted cap with a small bill. One black WRI stocking cap. One black NASCAR Ford Racing stocking cap. One black Adidas stocking cap. One red, white, gray, brown Canada stocking cap. One gray, black Adidas skull cap. One gray and white NFL Colts skull cap. One brown Carhartt stocking cap. 10 pairs of gloves, one extra glove. One blue fabric strap. One blue-green fabric strap. Okay, that's all the clothing. One HP laptop. One HP laptop. One plastic bag containing multiple headbands. One cardboard box containing miscellaneous cellular information. One Winchester Supreme Elite empty ammo box. One smaller envelope containing one Cruiser Micro 2 gigabyte flash drive with Rick on the back. 1 terabyte Western Digital hard drive. One Samsung flip phone in a floral case. One miniature katana with a red tassel. One black sheath and one Rapala fillet knife from the garage. One black sheath and one Best Defense knife from the garage. One black external hard drive and cord. One smaller envelope containing black iPod. One smaller envelope containing 32 megabyte SD card, 256 megabyte SD card. One black sheath with an animal imprinted on the front, and one large wooden handled knife with a rusted blade from the garage. 5 miscellaneous vehicle chargers. 9 miscellaneous outlet chargers. Miscellaneous phone accessories, laptop charger, 2 pagers, 1 black, 1 blue, 3 Motorola, 1 LG flip phones, 1 LG Verizon smartphone, 1 cardboard box containing an LG Verizon side slide smartphone, one Motorola Verizon smartphone, 3 older cell phones, 1 audio box, 1 Nokia, 1 Motorola cardboard box with a Nokia 7705 twist cell phone and documents. Sealed Garmin box containing 1 Garmin Street Pilot C340 device, 2 cords and documents. Plastic bag containing a custom vehicle operations motorcycle cover bag containing a motorcycle cover. Yes, there's been rumors about that. But let's talk about Brad Weber, because Brad Weber's face also matches Bridge Guy. Get back to that later. Sealed manila envelope containing black Pixel 3a XL cell phone with an OtterBox case. Black Samsung Galaxy, serial number XYZ, whatever. Sealed paper bag sealed by Steve Mullen containing 1 Aquafina water bottle. And we've heard horrible rumors about that water bottle. By the way, Randy Gravett. And sealed manila envelope containing a silver LG singular wireless flip phone. And finally, cutting of a carpeted area underneath the spare tire of a Ford Focus. Okay, so this would have been from within the back trunk of the vehicle. 2 plastic wrappers containing 1 swab from a driver lap belt and 1 swab of the driver's shoulder belt. Okay, so you get what's been swabbed is the seat belt. 2 plastic wrappers containing 2 swabs from the passenger side carpeted floorboards. Odd, isn't it? Isn't it? Okay. So what was sent to the lab? The carpeted area underneath the spare tire and the gun. All right, guys, so that right there should put to rest all your concerns about what was the result of the search warrant exercised at Richard Allen's privacy. Question here. Did you see anything about digging up a dead cat in the backyard? Did you see anything about a dead cat? A swab from a dead cat? Anything about anything dug up in the backyard? No. Did you see anything about a box cutter? No. No. Did you see anything about a cat whatsoever? No. Okay. So pay attention to what you didn't see as well as to what you did see. It's important. All right. Now, next up, we're going to get into the real meat. Okay, here's what I want to say before we move on. Notice how much digital forensics the state would have at their disposal. They took everything. They took so many phones, so many memory cards. They took a 1 terabyte hard drive in addition to all that. Several laptops. Trust me. Anything that guy or his wife has done, or the daughter, anything anyone has done on any of those devices or in any other devices into which those SD cards were inserted, investigators would have had. And I want you to reflect upon what you just read in the PCA. Okay, what I just read to you in the PCA, it's all circumstantial. Did you see anything about any forensics from a digital device? Did you? Okay, because I want you to stop smoking the crack, pull the wax out of your ears, peel the blinders off of your eyes, and ask yourself, what are we looking at here? 0 digital forensics on Richard Allen or any of his family. Okay? 0 DNA forensics. Have you heard anything from the state regarding DNA of any sort? Anything from his vehicle, from the carpet under the spare tire, from the clothing he was wearing? Yeah, I didn't think so either. I didn't think so. You've got nothing but circumstantial witnesses. Okay, like I said, these people here, this is the corruption here. This right here is your narrative. This is your setup. This is your corruption. And as an example of that, let's read this from Fox 59 because, they're very, very much not credible, right? The presence of Allen's Ford Focus is also in dispute. Defense attorneys argued. Allen told investigators he arrived at the trails around 12 p.m. and left around 1:30 p.m. According to the timeline set by investigators, the killings likely happened between 1:30 p.m. and 4 p.m., meaning Allen would have left, according to his recollection. Okay, well, what about all the phones they found? So you're telling me with all the phones they found, with all the video throughout the city of Delphi, they could not lock down a timeline digitally, forensically? Second box, okay, so first point here in the first box, timeline, 12 to 1:30, not 1:30 to 3:30 or 4. Okay? Second point of contention here in the middle. A witness reported seeing a different vehicle, not Allen's Ford Focus, but rather a 1965 Ford Comet. It's a Mercury Comet, which her father owned, so she would know very well the appearance of. Parked outside the CPS building around 2:15, but this detail was omitted in the affidavit. No, it wasn't omitted, young lady. It was twisted. It was twisted to become Allen's Ford Focus. That's important to note. We're about to read through that. And a third point of contention here. A separate witness reported seeing a man wearing a tan-colored coat, not a blue jacket. She also told investigators he was muddy. The affidavit, however, said the man was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody, with Liggett adding that last detail. Not the witness. Well, what kind of world are we living in here where that's okay for an official to do? Well, you're about to find out, because here we go. This is where the consternation comes in, okay? And I want you to hold on tight, guys. I know we've done this before, but it bears repeating based upon what we've just talked about. Okay, it's only a few pages. Let's go. This is Delphi weird shit anyway, isn't it? For Liggett's timeline to work and place Richard Allen on the High Bridge in 2:13, the famous time of the famous Down the Hill video, Liggett desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a man on the Monon High Bridge that looked like Richard Allen, and needed Betsy Blair to describe a man that looked like him, and perhaps more important, needed Betsy Blair to describe a car that she observed that parked at the CPS parking lot at approximately 2:15 as looking like Richard Allen's black Ford Focus. Betsy Blair's description of the man she observed on the Monon High Bridge around 2 p.m. looked nothing like Richard Allen. Liggett concealed this information from Judge Diener. Betsy Blair's description of the vehicle she observed at the CPS parking lot looked nothing like a black Ford Focus. Liggett also concealed this information from Judge Diener. For good measure, Liggett also lied about what Sarah Carbo observed at 3:57 p.m. that also blew up his timeline. Betsy Blair's first description of the man she saw on the bridge was memorialized in Sketch 2, illustrated on February 17th, 2017, just 3 days after the girls were found, but not released to the public until April 22nd, 2019. Now, keep in mind, this tells you immediately here that the young guy sketch is Betsy Blair's. It also tells you that she gave it 3 days after the murders on February 17, 2017. On February 17, 2017, Betsy Blair met with state police sketch artist Taylor D. Bryant and provided a description of the man she observed from 50 feet away on the Monon High Bridge. That same man Liggett claimed in his affidavit was the killer. Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the man that she observed was, pay attention to this, a white male, age 20, had brown curly hair, medium build. Find attached and marked as Exhibit 103 the unredacted facial identification reference sheet filed as confidential that contains the description that Betsy Blair provided to the sketch artist. Also find attached a copy of the sketch that Taylor D. Bryant produced from Betsy Blair's description of the man she observed on the bridge. Marked as Exhibit 104. This illustration is also called Sketch Number 2 because it was released to the public second. Upon looking at the sketch, Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the illustration was a 10 out of 10 for accuracy. Ladies and gentlemen, that sketch, which we call the young guy sketch, is still up on the FBI Delphi Murders website and on the Indiana State Police Delphi Murders website. What do you see? You see Betsy Blair's sketch, 10 out of 10 for accuracy, right alongside the Bridge Guy video. Now, you tell me, how is Richard Allen a 10 out of 10 for that young guy sketch who was 20 years old? How is Bridge Guy himself 20 years old? When you look at that video from Libby's phone, allegedly, do you see a 20-year-old? Do you see a face that at all resembles the Betsy Blair sketch? Because I see an older guy who walks like an older guy, who's built like an older guy, and who has facial hair. I see nothing like that Betsy Blair young guy sketch, which she rated as a 10 out of 10 for accuracy. It certainly appears that in 2019, April, law enforcement decides to make Betsy Blair primary witness, witness number 1. The Unified Command did not release the Betsy Blair sketch for the public for over 2 years. Instead, they first released the Sarah Carbo sketch, also called Sketch Number 1 because it was released to the public first. The Sarah Carbo sketch was illustrated by FBI sketch artist Plants from Detroit on June 19, 2017, and released to the public July 17, 2017. Okay? But what happened to the Daniel Pearson sketch? We know that Daniel Pearson was not happy with the Sarah Carbo sketch. We know that when shown an image of David McCain, Daniel Pearson said, yes, that's who I saw. So who did Sarah Carbo see? Who was that person that Sarah Carbo was describing in the sketch? According to Liggett's affidavit, at approximately 3:57, Sarah Carbo observed a man walking westbound on County Road 300 North. Sarah Carbo was headed eastbound on County Road 300 North, operating her motor vehicle while simultaneously observing this man walking on the road toward her on the opposite side, the north side. This is the same man that Sarah Carbo described for the sketch artist on June 19, 2017. We will be discussing Sarah Carbo's description of that man later. Roughly 2 years later, though, in March 2019, Betsy Blair met with Tony Liggett, frustrated that her sketch, sketch number 2, the young guy sketch, had not been released to the public. Betsy was frustrated because sketch number 1, which had been released to the public almost 2 years before, did not match the man that she saw or observed on the High Bridge. Betsy even commented that sketch number 1 was wrong. Okay, this is her March 7th, 2019 interview with Tony Liggett. She stated that sketch number 1 with the golf hat is wrong. Certainly, it's odd that the Sarah Carbo sketch was chosen to be released over the Betsy Blair sketch for the following reasons. Betsy Blair provided her description to the sketch artist only 4 days after seeing the man on the bridge, while it was fresh on her mind, compared with Sarah Carbo, who provided her description to the sketch artist 126 days after she observed the man on the road. Betsy Blair had a good look at the man's face while stationary from only 50 feet away, allegedly. Sarah Carbo was not stationary, but rather traveling down the road, operating her vehicle while simultaneously trying to observe the man on the road. During the March 7th, well, I don't know if this is a typo or not, but Betsy Blair was talking with two members, this must be 2019, of the Unified Command, Kevin Hammond and Tony Liggett. At this interview, Betsy Blair told Liggett face to face that the man she observed on the high bridge fit the following description. Okay, remember, Betsy Blair is your primary witness, primary provider of our sketch of young bridge guy. He was slender and youthful looking. Does that sound like 180 to 220 pounds and 40s to 50s? He was more boyish looking. Does that look like your old guy sketch? Does that sound like 40s to 50s? He 20s to 30s. Does that sound like 40s to 50s? His hair seemed poofy, as the sketch portrayed. He had no facial hair that she can remember. Does that seem like bridge guy? Don't we see facial hair on? Look at the bridge guy video. Because we are alleging here that bridge guy killed Abby and Libby. Bridge guy's captured in Libby's phone. Bridge guy clearly has a goatee. Bridge guy clearly has a wide nose, appears to be an older gentleman. Bridge guy's physical build clearly seems to be someone in their 40s to 50s at least. How on earth is bridge guy the young guy sketch? A man in his 20s to 30s, no facial hair that she can remember, boyish looking, slender and youthful. I mean, somebody make it make sense, guys. And even to this day, you go to the ISP website, you go to the FBI Delphi Murders website, what do you see? You see Betsy Blair's sketch, the young guy, right next to the bridge guy video, who does have facial hair, who does look older, who does physically look like an older man. Finally, on April 22nd, 2019, Unified Command released Betsy Blair's sketch to the general public. And let me interject here, not because she bitched about it, because some of these idiots on YouTube are going around claiming or pushing that the reason the sketch was changed was because Betsy Blair insisted on it. Listen, guys, witnesses do not tell law enforcement what to do. Betsy Blair doesn't tell Tony Liggett and Jerry Holman to switch up the sketches because she wants them to. That's not the way this shit works. So you can erase that from your mind. Betsy Blair didn't make Carroll County or ISP switch the sketches in 2019. That's someone trying to gaslight you, trying to fool you, trying to convince you that something is what it is not. In fact, upon its release, Superintendent Doug Carter commented that the man in Blair's sketch, number 2, was, quote, responsible for the murders. Also, at the time of the release of the sketch, Doug Carter stated that sketch number 1 had now become secondary to the investigation. And as I've said earlier tonight, and plenty of times before, remember ISP's press release. The two individuals are not the same individual. The old guy sketch is no longer a person of interest. I mean, how much more clear do you have to be? But then Carter goes on over the years to say the person behind the sketches or between the sketches is a person responsible. So why does Carter contradict the ISP? He's supposed to be the spokesperson for the ISP. Why is Doug Carter after the ISP is saying the old guy sketch and the young guy sketch are not the same individual, that the old guy sketch is no longer a person of interest in the Delphi murders investigation, why does Doug Carter continue to go forward and contradict that, saying that the person behind the sketches, or if you put them together, the person behind it, blah, 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 is our killer? Sketch is a photograph, not a photograph. Sketch. Why does he keep up the fucking mystery and the riddles? Why is Doug Carter continuing the riddles about the sketches? ISP was extremely clear. They came out after the press conference in 2019 and said, no, there's confusion about this young guy sketch. Let me be clear. These two are not the same individual. This old guy sketch is no longer a person of interest. We believe that the young guy sketch is a person who's responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby. On March 7th, 2019, Liggett was present when Betsy Blair described the man she observed on the bridge. Betsy was actually talking to Liggett face to face when she provided the descriptions. Liggett heard Betsy Blair's descriptions of a much younger man with brown poofy hair and a young face and a slender build and in his 20s to 30s. But he chose to conceal this information from Judge Diener. Blair's description of the youthful, boyish-looking person in his 20s, maybe early 30s, with poofy brown hair, does not work at all to describe Richard Allen, who is actually built more like an older guy, right? Liggett heard Betsy's description, but concealed it. In order for Liggett to have provided Diener with honest and accurate information, he would have to state the following, okay? Now, remember, the defense constantly does this to put this hypothetical truth, okay, in their document. But I'll humor them for now because it's important to get through this part. And look, guys, I don't know why you're timing out. Please don't time out anyone. Let's see. Okay. I think Jennifer was fine, but let's continue. I, Tony Liggett, okay, remember, this is your hypothetical truth. Believe Richard Allen is the man that murdered the girls for reasons stated herein. I also believe that the man Betsy Blair observed on the bridge is Richard Allen and therefore the killer. However, I must inform the court that the man Betsy Blair observed on the high bridge really looks nothing like Richard Allen. Whereas Richard Allen is a man in his mid-40s with short or even shaved grayish hair. The man Betsy Blair described was youthful, boyish looking, and had brown poofy hair. Also, Your Honor, Betsy Blair told the sketch artist the man she saw on the bridge was 20 years old. This description came only 4 days after she observed that man on the bridge. 2 years later, Betsy Blair still maintains that the man in his mid-20s or was in his 20s or maybe early 30s. But Betsy Blair told the sketch artist back in 2017 that the resemblance of the boyish sketch of the man she observed on the bridge was 10 out of 10. I must also tell you, Judge, that this 10 out of 10 man looks nothing like Richard Allen. Okay, so that's your hypothetical truth. Liggett had a legal obligation to inform Diener of the vast differences between Blair's description of the man she observed on the bridge and Richard Allen, but he did not. In fact, that alone should be sufficient merit to toss out the warrant and suppress the fruits of the poisonous tree, or the fruits of an illegal search. However, there's more. In order for Liggett's timeline to work, he needs Richard Allen's black Ford Focus to be parked at the CPS lot from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. Betsy Blair sees one car at the CPS lot at 2:15, and it is not Richard Allen's car. Richard Allen voluntarily interviewed on October 13th, 2022. Watching the videotaped interview, it's apparent that Richard thought he was being asked questions to help police or assist police in solving the crime. In trying to provide Liggett and Mullen with a timeline of when he was at the trail, Richard stated he arrived at the trail around noon. Remember, this is October 22nd, October 13th, when he goes in for an interview to help the cops. He says he arrived at the trail around noon. Later in that interview, Richard Allen told Liggett and Mullen that he left the trail around 1:30. Okay, so we don't have Dan Doolin's recorded interview. We don't have a documented anything from Dan Doolin. We have retroactively, we have a report from Dan Doolin alleging 1:30 to 3:30. However, October 13th, 2022, Allen tells Liggett and Mullen he arrived at noon and left at 1:30. So his car is on camera at 1:27. So how do we know if he's coming or going? Without any secondary confirmation, no other camera anywhere in town, no forensics on the phone he was allegedly looking at, the stock ticker. Seems like this 1:27, 1:30 time period is a very important time, and now we have zero way to triple check it. In his affidavit, Liggett states that Richard Allen parked his black Ford Focus at the CPS parking lot and cut over to the trail where he walked to the high bridge, ultimately following Libby and Abby across the bridge before abducting them. After murdering the girls, Liggett stated in his affidavit that Betsy Carbo observed a man that Liggett claims is Richard Allen walking along 300 North at approximately 3:57 p.m. Yes, but remember, in October 2022, Richard says he's gone at 1:30. Liggett claims it's Allen walking on 300 North at approximately 3:57 p.m. westbound towards a CPS parking lot. The implication being that Richard Allen was walking back to his car after abducting and murdering the girls, right? If what Liggett wrote in his affidavit was true, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would have been parked besides or at the CPS lot from 1:30 until at least 4, giving him time to abduct the girls, murder the girls, walk back to his Ford Focus parked at the CPS lot sometime after 3:57, which is when Sarah Carbo observed someone walking down 300 North. In other words, for Liggett's timeline to work, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would have to remain parked at the old CPS building from roughly 1:30 p.m., which is when Liggett claims Richard Allen arrived, until roughly 4 p.m., as Liggett claims. Richard Allen had abducted and murdered the girls prior to that. So if Richard's black Ford Focus was not on that CPS parking lot between those hours, 1:30 to 4, then Liggett's timeline is blown wide open. In his deposition, Liggett was asked a series of questions by the defense counsel, and he answered as follows. Okay, and we'll skip through this quite quickly. We'll just skip on through it. You can read it on your own, but we'll get to this part. Through his answers, Liggett demonstrated that he recognized that for his timeline to work, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would have to be parked from 1:30 to 4 to give Richard time to abduct and murder the girls, return his vehicle. However, therefore, if there was any evidence that Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was not parked at the CPS lot between those times, then that's something that Liggett would have to show or share with Judge Diener. But rather than to tell the truth, Liggett concealed this evidence that Richard Allen's black Ford Focus had left the parking lot probably at 1:30 p.m., but certainly before 2:15 p.m. when Blair saw a completely different car. Now here's where it gets rich. This is what we're waiting for. So sorry for all the verbiage, but it took us that to get here. Okay. And therefore, Richard could not have been at the bridge at 2 p.m. or 2:13 or 2:30 or committed the murder soon thereafter. For starters, as noted earlier, in his interview with Liggett and Mullen, Allen stated that he arrived at the trails around noon and left at 1:30. Liggett failed to inform Judge Diener that Richard Allen had stated he had left the trails at 1:30. He should have, especially if there was evidence that a different vehicle was parked at the old CPS lot after 1:30 but before 4, which would support Richard's statement that he left the CPS building around 1:30 p.m. So the next question to ask is, did anyone see a vehicle parked at the old CPS building between 1:30 and 4 that did not resemble Richard Allen's black Ford Focus, thus supporting the timeline that Richard Allen provided to Liggett, but which Liggett concealed from Judge Diener? The answer is yes. Okay, and it's yes more than once, but we'll go with the defense here, who says yes, Betsy Blair. Now this is where it's really, really important. When Betsy Blair arrived at the trail at roughly 1:46, Betsy Blair parked her vehicle in a different location that the defense calls the Mears lot. When she left the Monon Trail and pulled out of the Mears lot, Betsy Blair headed west on 300 North, and her car was spotted on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera heading toward the OCPS building at 2:14 p.m. The old CPS lot, now remember, these murders or this abduction is supposed to be happening at 2:13 p.m. Richard is supposed to be saying, guys down the hill, at 2:13 p.m., this exact to the minute, Richard's supposed to be taking these girls down the hill. The old CPS lot is only a 36-second drive from the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, giving Betsy a full minute to drive from Hoosier Harvest Store to the OCPS, where she would witness the vehicle at 2:15. Remember, Liggett has admitted under oath that at 2:15 p.m., Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was parked at the old CPS building while he was abducting. He was literally taking the girls down the hill, according to Tony Liggett. However, at 2:15, when Betsy Blair passed the old CPS building, Betsy Blair did not see a black Ford Focus parked at the old CPS lot. The car that Betsy Blair observed as she passed the old CPS building at 2:15 p.m. looked nothing like a black Ford Focus. According to Liggett's own report, Betsy Blair observed one car parked at the old CPS lot at 2:15. Remember, this is while someone is taking the girls down the hill. And that's that the car resembled a 1965 Mercury Comet. Okay? But Betsy Blair literally said Ford Comet. Okay, so her testimony was Ford Comet, 1965 Ford Comet. Well, Mercury made the comets. But what she said was that when she passed the CPS lot at 2:15 p.m., remember, bridge guys taking the girls down the hill to their deaths, she saw a car that resembled a 1965 Comet that her father once owned. The shape had sharper angles. Betsy even provided a sketch of the side profile of the car that's attached and marked as Exhibit 113 to the Frank's memorandum. Okay? This sketch looks nothing like the side profile of Richard Allen's Ford Focus. And I would challenge any of you, and I mean any of you, any single one of you, go and find a 1965 Mercury Comet with sharper angles. And go and find a 2017-16 Ford Focus. Do it now. Stop the stream if you're on the replay. Go do it now and come back. If you're watching live, open another tab. Google 1965 Mercury Comet like her father once owned, which is what she saw and what she sketched, and compare it. Compare it to a 2016 Ford Focus. And you tell me how this works. Oh, but it gets worse. Because not only is that what happened, but Liggett chose to lie about it. He chose to turn Betsy Blair into a witness of Richard Allen's Ford Focus, which she was not. She was a witness to a 1965 looking Mercury Comet looking vehicle resembling one with angular, sharper angles similar to one her father once owned, which she also sketched. But it gets worse. Let's continue. It should also be noted that if Richard Allen left at 1:30 p.m., then the person that Betsy Blair observed on the High Bridge at roughly 2 p.m. was not Richard Allen. Well, we know now that she did not observe his car. So maybe she didn't observe him. I mean, he looks nothing like the young guy sketch. He looks 20 years older and 100 pounds heavier. This would explain why the person that Betsy Blair observed on the High Bridge looked nothing like Richard Allen, because it wasn't Richard Allen. It was a 20-year-old kid with poofy brown hair. Concealing Betsy Blair's description of the vehicle at the old CPS building from Judge Diener may have temporarily plugged the hole in the dam of Liggett's problematic timeline. Beautiful writing, whoever wrote this. When Diener reviewed the affidavit on October 13th, 2022. But Liggett's concealment has now been exposed. And maybe this is why Diener stepped down, because he knew he signed an illegal document. Maybe he stepped down for a reason, and it wasn't bloodlust of the public. And it gets even worse. When asked to describe the color of the car that resembles a 1965 Ford Mercury Comet, Betsy Blair actually told Liggett that the car she saw was not black. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Liggett heard from the mouth of Betsy Blair that the 1965 Mercury Comet looking vehicle was not even black, which is the color that Liggett needed the vehicle to be. And remember, our male witness to the vehicle described a purple PT Cruiser, also not black. Because of Betsy's description of the car she viewed at the old CPS building, evidence supports that Richard Allen left at 1:30 as he told Liggett. At some point in time after Richard left the old CPS lot, an older, angular-looking car resembling a 1965 Comet that wasn't black then arrived at the old CPS building. Then the driver of the 1965 Mercury Comet-looking angular non-black vehicle parked in the CPS lot. At roughly 2:15, when returning home, Betsy Blair observed this car that reminded her of a car her dad owned growing up. All of this adds up to the fact that evidence concealed by Liggett supports that Richard Allen was not at the crime scene but had left, as he said, at 1:30, potentially. Now, it gets worse. I'm going to skip ahead a bit. There we go. Middle of the page, it gets even worse. Liggett flat out lied when he told Judge Diener that in 2017, Sarah Carbo described a man as wearing muddy and bloody clothing and was also wearing a blue jacket. Oh, this one's good. If it wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. For Liggett's timeline to work, not only did he need for Richard Allen's black Ford Focus to be parked at the old lot between 1:30 and 4, which we now know it wasn't, but he also needed Sarah Carbo's statement concerning the man she claimed she saw walking on 300 North at 3:57 to match Betsy Blair's description of a man wearing a blue fucking jacket. It would also help. Remember, Betsy Blair saw the young guy sketch wearing a blue jacket. It would also help if the man had blood on his clothing to further tie him to the murder. So Liggett figured, hey, why not? In his affidavit, Liggett wrote the following, and we just read this earlier. An interview was done, Sarah Carbo, in 2017. She states she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North, away from Moaning High Bridge. She stated he was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans. See an italicized wording at the bottom paragraph, and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared he had gotten into a fight. Investigators determined from the video that she was on 300 North at 15:57, the 3:57. The blue jacket described by Sarah Carbo would need to match the color of the jacket described by Betsy Blair to make the guy on the 300 North this one and the same with the bridge guy and one and the same with Betsy Blair's description. Again, the blood on the clothing would make it more dramatic and be an added bonus in that it would tie the man that Sarah Carbo observed in with murders, because who else would be bloody and look like they just got in a fight? And it would help in convincing Diener to sign the search warrant. The problem is that in 2017, Sarah Carbo told Liggett to his face that the man she observed walking on 300 North was wearing a tan-colored coat, a lighter colored coat, not a blue jacket. Find attached a flash drive containing Sarah Carbo's June 7th, 2017 interview with Tony Liggett. It's marked as Exhibit 115. Carbo describes that the man she observed was wearing a tan-colored coat, lighter colored coat, at the 5-hour, 7-minute mark. This is a problem because the color of this man's coat did not match the coat of the 20-year-old boyish-looking man with the poofy brown hair with a slender build that Betsy Blair observed on the High Bridge around 2. According to Liggett, both of these men were Richard Allen. Another way to put it is that Liggett has asserted that Sketch 1 and Sketch 2 are the exact same man, Richard Allen, just like Doug Carter is asserting. But we know that ISP said post-April press conference that it's not the same man and that the first man is no longer a person of interest. Remember, Liggett has testified under oath that only one man, Richard Allen, committed these crimes. Although we know that we have Nicholas McClellan himself saying he has reason to believe there are other parties. We'll read that momentarily. Therefore, if Betsy Blair observed one man while Sarah Carbo observed an entirely different second man, which is what we now believe, this would cut against Liggett's preposterous contention that only one man committed the crime. This fact is perhaps neither the young man Betsy Blair observed nor the muddy man Sarah Carbo observed had anything to do with the murders, possibly. Meanwhile, as Blair and Carbo were observing two different men, Richard Allen was home and another 1965 Mercury Comet-looking non-black vehicle was parked at the CPS lot. What the fuck is going on? It's too much. It's too much. Last paragraph here. Carbo saw a man walking on 300 North wearing a jacket. Liggett needed the color of that jacket to match the color of the jacket worn by the man Betsy Blair observed on the High Bridge, because Liggett is claiming that both men are the same and that it's Richard Allen. The problem was that Carbo did not observe the man walking down 300 North wearing a blue jacket. She observed a tan jacket. This meant that Sarah Carbo and Betsy Blair observed two different men. The problem that this created for Liggett's timeline was immense. So instead of being honest, Liggett chose to represent to Judge Diener that Carbo observed a man wearing a blue jacket when in her 2017 interview, she said it was tan. And that should be against the law, ladies and gentlemen. This is the United States of America. And it gets worse. Yeah, how many times has it gotten worse? it gets worse once more. But that's not all. Nowhere in a Sarah Carbo's 2017 interview does she use the word bloody to describe the clothing that the man in the tan jacket was wearing. Nowhere. This so-called muddy, bloody lady is just actually the muddy lady, as Carbo only used one word to describe the man she observed, and that was muddy. It certainly would have helped Judge Diener in making his decision if the man walking down the street was wearing a blue jacket and was also wearing muddy and bloody clothing, as if he had just murdered somebody. However, Liggett just flat out lied. Sarah Carbo never mentioned a blue coat, not once, and never mentioned blood in her 2017 interview. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is criminal. Not only is it criminal, that enough in and of itself is justification for throwing out the fruits of the search warrant. It's a fruit of the poisonous tree. And not only that, it's enough at least to demand a Frank's hearing, which our judge has blatantly denied. Instead of lying, had Liggett told Judge Diener that the man walking down 300 North at 357 was wearing a light tan-colored coat, a blue coat, and it wasn't bloody, only muddy, then Judge Diener would have realized Betsy Blair and Sarah Carbo did not see the same man. Wasn't enough evidence there. So instead of lying, had Liggett told Diener that the man walking down 300 North only had muddy clothing, then Diener would have not associated necessarily the man with the murder. Again, Liggett can't claim that when drafting the affidavit, he didn't know better. Liggett relied on false description provided by a different investigator, although he was told to his face the details of this. Sarah Carbo told Liggett to his face that the man she observed was wearing a tan coat and was only muddy, not bloody. And if Judge Diener had been told the truth, he would have not, nor should have not, signed that search warrant. Okay? Now, it brings us back to this. First 2 years that Skip described to us in the first half of the show. Daniel Pearson, Shelby Hicks, Wesley, Betsy, Terry, Isabel, Bree, Anna, Rayleigh. Lots of witnesses. Many of them here. Where's Daniel Pearson? Why, in 2019, does the age change? Does the face change? Does the presence of a vehicle suddenly change? Does the timeline change? Is Daniel Pearson and Shelby Hicks the couple arguing under the bridge? What about those that Cheyenne says was there with Cheyenne? What about the classmates who I mentioned earlier who were there but left allegedly before the girls arrived? Allegedly. How is it that all of the people in these first 2 years in these questionable circumstances that Skip is putting across, how is it that the lost 70 days of investigation includes all of those people? It also includes everyone else in the Franks memorandum. Your Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall. Guys, I keep saying it this way. The Franks memorandum and the 4 Franks are the tip of the iceberg of this case. Unfortunately, the defense has had an uphill battle. Do you get it? You cannot look at the Franks memorandum and believe that the defense is telling you the entire story, because they don't have the entire story. They have the tip of an iceberg, which is way deeper than the Franks memorandum. You wonder why there's such ferocious, vile toxicity around this case? Well, let's read it this way. I quote Nicholas McClellan. This is still a very ongoing investigation. Our goal is to find anyone else who was involved in this heinous crime. That is the public interest, to find anyone else involved and get justice for Abby and Libby. We've had good reason to believe that Richard Allen is not the only person involved in this case, that there may be other actors involved. That's why we left the tip line open. That's why we left the tip email open. And let me interject here. That's why the FBI Delphi Murders page is still up. That's why the ISP Delphi Murders page is still up. The question becomes, at least in the state's mind, is it more important to release the details of the investigation to the public, or more important to keep these confidential in order for the investigation to continue and find anyone else that's responsible? It puts the investigation in the best possible position to determine if anyone else was involved. It's in the best interest of the public that the investigation find anyone else involved. In pertinent part, Detective Holman's letter sought the sealing of the records for many reasons, one being that the investigation is ongoing and fluid. Investigator Mullen cited the matter was still being actively investigated, that law enforcement was continuing to search and seek facts and information relating to Richard Allen and other potential suspects. The ISP task force, okay? I'm going to show it to you, and then I'll read it to you. It's important to distinguish these points about the 2 sketches. They are not the same person. The person depicted in the originally released sketch is not presently a person of interest in the investigation. The new sketch, released April 22nd, is representative of the face of the person captured in the video on Liberty German's cell phone. What? The person in the sketch, released April 22nd, is described as having a youthful appearance, but could fall in the age range from 20s to 30s. This person's appearance could look different today if he has grown a mustache, beard, or his hair has grown longer or shorter. Here's another one. This is what I'm saying. This is from the FBI website. You're telling me That's the same person. That person has no goatee. I see a goatee on the guy. That person has a slender nose. I see a fat nose, a wide nose on the guy in the video. That person has the build of a 40, 50-year-old. This guy's described as 20s and slender. I'm sorry, y'all. I wish that I could be like these idiots who are intentionally spreading disinformation on this internet to keep these people protected. I wish I could be like them and not call them idiots and not have to criticize them. They've gone after my son, my other son, my mother, my father, my jobs. But I can't be like them. I'm not made like them. I have no agenda. I'm not a local. I'm not related to anyone in this group. I'm not related to anyone in these counties. No one pays me. Which I actually could use. I could use the support of this channel. Hit the like, hit the Cash App, hit the whatever support pathways. But we're dealing with something bad here. We're dealing with something bad. And so, whether or not Richard Allen is involved or not, there's a high degree of confidence that others are involved. And I would say it this way. Judging from what we've seen tonight, it's very unlikely that Richard Allen is involved. Remember, everything's circumstantial. Where's the digital forensics? Where's the genetics, the DNA? Where's the murder weapon? Where's anything whatsoever that puts Richard Allen as being involved or killing these girls? I don't see it. But the potential exists, the possibility exists, although slim, that he could be involved. But why? Why is there no evidence? All we have right now, let me put this back up. You have a hodgepodge of twisted, strewn together witness statements, quote unquote, with a shitty timeline, lies from Tony Liggett, misrepresentation of the witnesses who remain. You have them doing shit like this, like I mentioned, different time than Richard said he was there, a different vehicle being cited, and different clothing, saying that he's bloody when he's not. I mean, why would you have to do all of this? Why would you have to do all of this if he's your guy? I mean, and not only that, just to take a look at the crime scene photos, which I suggest you all do for yourself. It only takes 5 seconds of looking at them to realize that it's extremely unlikely that one guy did that. We know Nicole Robertson was looking for Nordic, for Norse pagan symbolism at Ron Logan's house. We know that she claimed the girls arrived there at 1 p.m., approximately 1 p.m. We know she was not looking for box cutters. And we know that they never found a single thing on Ron Logan. Is it weird enough for you? I really do appreciate you all being here. I mean, I'm sorry that I can't be with you as much as I would like to, but we have real life here, and so I do what I can. I try as hard as I can. I want to thank everyone for being here in the chat. I'm going to name you, if you don't mind, just to thank you. I said I would do so on the way out or at some point, so now's that point. And I'll go back as far as I can see, okay? Starting with Phoenix. Thank you, Phoenix, for being here. Thank you to Sandy D, Diamond Eyes, Chevy Killer, Fur Baby Daddy, all my regulars here. I love you. Rebecca Ann, Deborah, good to see you here. Criminal Network, Linda K. Johnson, Sean Bianchi, Rick H. How's the weather in New Zealand? Is a God thing. It's good to see you here again. Missed you. I have Apophis. Thanks for gracing us with your presence. I love the stimulating conversation, Mr. I have Apophis. Kayla, thanks for being here. You're just the best. You're my fur baby mama. We got fur baby daddy, so got the couple here. Diamond Dice, thank you again. Let's see who else was here. Criminal Network, did I say hello yet? Okay, got you here. Thank you so much for being here. There's some who were here earlier. I want to say Big Fish, Small Pond, thank you. Let's see who else I missed out on. It's a New Day was here. Thank you. It's a New Day. Noe Amos was here. Thank you so much, Noe. Really appreciate you being here, Noe. And Sunflower Soul was here. Appreciate you being here. It's a New Day. I really love you. Let's see. Who else was here? Swade Smith. Hey, good to see you here, Swade. Good to see you. Appreciate it. Frenchie6290, my partner in crime. Good to see you here. And you know, everyone else who was here. Oh, Jennifer Dickerson. I really want to thank Jennifer for being here. She's just like I have Apophis. She gives stimulating conversation. I know that she got timed out or something for some reason. Whoever did that, please apologize to her in the chat on the way out. I don't think that she committed any atrocities. So, Jennifer, we're sorry you got timed out. Hopefully it was an accident. But Jennifer has an amazing story. I've posted some of her ideas before, and maybe we'll talk about them again, but she's amazing. True Justice, thank you for being here. Christine DC, thank you for being here. And going back pretty far, hey, Sandy D was here. So I guess I'll leave it at that. If you were here super early in the show and have left the chat, I apologize for missing you, but you know I love you, and you know I thank you for being here. Bobby Smith, yeah, I see he was here earlier. Nancy Drew 101 was here. Appreciate them. Ardra Kessler was here. True Justice. Zero Cool was here. What's up, Zero Cool? All you guys were here super early. Appreciate you. Tammy, oh yeah, Tammy McCrae, I'm glad I didn't miss you. Kathy S. was here. Jaded Empath, one of our long-time listeners, old school. Nancy Drew, Rebecca Ann, Untamable was here. Augie was here. Pam Sheehan was here. Icy Cat was here. And I really do. If I missed anybody, sorry for missing you. I really don't want to miss anyone. Hey, what's up? Not DB. Send a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Still blocked. Well, how can you send a super chat if you're blocked? I apologize that you're blocked. We'll take a look at that. But it's funny that blocked can send super chats. Maybe I'll start twisting people's arms. That would be funny. But thanks everyone for being here. I really do mean it. Oh, commentator Root. Okay. Thank you for being here. I didn't want to miss you. I didn't want to miss anyone. Okay, so appreciate everyone that was here. Oh, thank you. It's a God thing. Okay, it's a God thing. Let's see. All right. Not DB. Are you saying that not DB is Dan? That's interesting. I didn't think DB was Dan. Um, Look, you'll have to talk to me in some way because we have things to work out if you are Dan. Diamond Eye says, Jennifer, I'm sorry. I thought I was trying to follow guidelines. All right. So, yeah, you guys with all your screen names got me too confused. You got to, like, how am I supposed to know who anyone is? But thank you very much for the kind super chats and all the comments in the chat. I did not read the chat tonight because I had a lot of reading to do, but I'll go back on the replay. I'll watch the chat and I'll see what you guys had to say. I really do appreciate the input in the chats. And also, I always mention to those on the replay, please, 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 comment section. If you're watching the replay, comment section, okay? Please leave comments. It continues the conversation and it's good. And we'll see you guys later. Diamond Eye says, Jennifer, I'm sorry. I thought I was trying to follow guidelines. So Jennifer thanks you for the apology, and I thank you for the apology. And I don't know what happened, but I don't know what Jennifer did or whatever. But email me. Both you guys email me. Jennifer, email me, and Diamond Eyes, and we'll work it out because I love you both. You're both sweet girls. You're awesome. And hey, man. All I got to say is pray, okay? Just pray. Pray for you, pray for me, pray for the girls, pray for everyone. That's all we can really do, right? Be good to each other. Hug your kids, hug your wife, whatever your choices are. I really appreciate that. I will see you tomorrow night for a wonderful Friday night stream. I'm trying to make those and not miss them. So I do plan on seeing everyone tomorrow night. So, hey, please be a champ and come back tomorrow for a discussion. It'll be a surprise show. I think you guys will be happy with it. So, yeah, check it out tomorrow night. We'll do our normal Friday night, and it'll be something special, too. I got to probably going to have a little something special for you. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. And hey, do your best to make peace with everyone, and take accountability, admit when you're wrong, and do the right thing. Okay. Thank you for saying it's an awesome live. And hey, everyone, also before we leave, please do this. Please thank Skip Jansen for his contribution to tonight's show because listen, Skip is very passionate about this case. He's very knowledgeable. He's done a lot of work, and I know that Skip is very much like a lot of people. He's all burned out. He doesn't want the toxicity in his life that surrounds this case. So there's a lot of people who are all burned out and wanting to step back from the case, at least publicly. So please leave a multitude of thanks towards Skip because I'll ask him to read this chat when the show's over, so that he can see all of your thanks. And we'll leave it like that, okay? We'll leave that, give Skip the gift of thanks and kindness and friendship because he's a good guy, and I promise you he is. And so we'll see you later. Good night, everyone, and we love you. Thanks for being here, Noe, too. You're my best bud. All right. Good night, fellas.